I never thought I'd beg. Not to Caleb. Not to the man who once whispered promises against my skin, the man who traced forever into my palms like he meant it. But here I am, knees digging into the cold courtroom floor, my voice breaking as I reach for the sun they are tearing from my arms. Please, I choke out. Please don't do this. My little boy, my sweet, innocent Noah, screams for me, his tiny hands outstretched, fingers grasping for mine. His blue eyes, Caleb's eyes, are wide with fear, fat tears rolling down his cheeks as he thrashes against the arms of a woman I don't know. Mommy, he wails, his voice high and panicked. Mommy, don't let them take me. I lunge forward, but someone pulls me back. A guard? A lawyer? I don't know. I don't care. I fight them, my body thrashing like a wild animal, because this isn't right. This isn't supposed to be happening. I was a good mother. I am a good mother. Your Honor, please. My voice is raw, shredded from all the screaming, from all the nights I spent praying for this moment to go differently. He's my son. I raised him. You can't. But I can already see it in the judge's face. The decision has been made. It was made before I even stepped into this courtroom. Because Caleb doesn't just have money. He has power. He has lawyers who wear $1,000 suits, people who spin lies into legal documents, and a last name that has owned this city for generations. He doesn't have to fight the way I do. He doesn't have to beg. He just has to sign a check. The gavel slams, final and cruel. Full custody granted to Caleb Mercer. My world stops. Noah screams louder. My baby, my heart, my entire reason for breathing is being ripped away from me by hands that have never comforted him in the middle of the night, never traced his tiny freckles or kissed away his fears. I turn to Caleb, my last, desperate hope. Please, I whisper, my voice barely more than air. You don't have to do this. His face is unreadable. Those same stormy blue eyes I once loved now look past me like I'm nothing more than a memory. This is what's best for him, he says. And then he turns his back. I break. The courtroom blurs, the sounds of my son's screams fading into static. My nails dig into the floor, my chest collapsing as sobs claw their way out of my throat. This can't be real. This can't be happening. But it is. And as I watch the doors close behind my son, my entire world taken from me in an instant, I vow one thing. I will make him pay. The days after losing Noah feel like I am trapped in a nightmare I can't wake up from. I keep expecting to hear his tiny footsteps running down the hall, to feel his little arms wrap around my legs as he giggles, demanding I pick him up. I wait for the sound of his sleepy voice calling for me in the middle of the night. Mommy, I had a bad dream. But the only thing waiting for me is silence. I sit on the floor of my nearly empty apartment, my arms wrapped around my knees, staring at the wall where his drawings used to be. I had taped them up there, messy little stick figures with bright crayon colors, his version of our tiny family. But they're gone now. Just like him. Caleb took everything. The lawyers came the day after the ruling. I had already lost Noah, but that wasn't enough for them. For him. I don't even remember signing the papers. I just remember the way my hands shook as they placed the documents in front of me, page after page of legal jargon designed to suffocate me. The apartment? Gone. The car I struggled to pay for? Gone. Every bank account I had? Paid. Caleb didn't just want custody. He wanted to erase me. I was served with an eviction notice that morning. They gave me 2 days to pack up what little I had left, as if I had anywhere to go. As if I had anyone to run to. My family was never in the picture. My mother left when I was barely old enough to remember her, and my father died before I turned 16. There was no safety net, no one to turn to. So I pack what I can into a single duffel bag, the weight of my entire life reduced to a pile of folded clothes and fading memories. I stand in Noah's empty bedroom, my fingers tracing the edge of his bed, still unmade from the last night he slept in it. His favorite stuffed lion sits on the pillow staring at me with round button eyes. He cried when they took him. He reached for me, screaming until his voice cracked, until his little body trembled with sobs. Mommy, please. Don't let them take me. I squeeze my eyes shut, pressing a fist to my mouth to keep from screaming. I failed him. I let them take him. I should have fought harder. I should have done more. A broken sob tears from my throat as I grab his stuffed lion, clutching it to my chest. Still smells like him, like baby shampoo and warmth. A piece of my soul dies in that moment. I was a mother. Now I'm nothing. I don't know where to go, so I wander. The city moves around me, oblivious to my grief, my shattered existence. People laugh, cars rush by, restaurants fill with couples and families living the lives I will never have again. I spend my last few dollars on a motel room with flickering lights and sheets that smell like cheap detergent. I sit on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone, opening my messages over and over again, rereading the ones from Caleb before everything fell apart. We'll always be a family, Lena. I love you, baby. You and Noah mean everything to me. Trust me. Please. I dropped the phone, breathing heavily, trying to understand how the man who once held me at night, who once whispered love into my skin, could destroy me so easily. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were young when we met. Wild, stupid, full of dreams that felt invincible. Caleb was the golden boy, charming, wealthy, untouchable. I was the girl from nowhere, the one who should have known better than to believe in fairy tales. But I did. I fell in love with him. I gave him everything. And in return he took everything from me. The next morning I wake up in a haze of grief so heavy I can barely breathe. I feel hollowed out, emptied, erased. But when I look at myself in the motel mirror, I see something new in my reflection. Rage. It sits beneath my skin, a slow-burning fire, flickering to life beneath the devastation. Caleb thinks he's won. He thinks I'll disappear, that I'll fade into nothing while he plays the perfect father to the son he stole. But he's wrong. I won't disappear. I won't let him write the ending to my story. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I swear on every broken piece of me, I will rise. And when I do, I will make him pay. Survival is an ugly thing. It doesn't come wrapped in clean, poetic moments of triumph. It comes in sleepless nights, in hunger that gnaws at your ribs, in the humiliation of wearing the same clothes until they smell like regret. It comes in watching the world move on without you. For months, I exist in a cycle of desperation. The first few weeks after losing Noah, after losing everything, are nothing but survival. One breath at a time. One day at a time. I take whatever jobs I can find. Waitressing, cleaning houses, stocking shelves at a store that barely pays enough to keep me afloat. No one hires a woman who has nothing, a woman who reeks of loss and carries grief in her eyes. But I keep going. Every night, I lie awake in whatever cheap temporary shelter I can afford that week, staring at the ceiling, picturing Noah's face. I wonder if he's eating well, if he still sleeps with his stuffed lion, if he remembers the sound of my voice, if he still calls for me in the middle of the night. I imagine Caleb in his pristine world, untouched by the destruction he left behind. Sitting in a mansion with my son, telling himself he did the right thing. And that's when the fire inside me starts to grow. I won't let him win. He took my child with money, with power, with a name that meant something in a world where I was nothing. So if power is what it takes to fight back, then I will get it. I just have to start from the ground up. And that's exactly what I do. The first real job I land is as a receptionist in a corporate office. It's nothing glamorous, long hours, low pay, but it's a foot in the door. I work harder than anyone else. I come in early, stay late, learn everything I can. I study the executives, memorize how they speak, how they move, how they hold power without ever needing to raise their voices. I become invisible, a shadow in their world. Watching, learning, preparing. I take classes at night. I don't sleep much, but I don't care. I pore over business books, legal documents, anything that teaches me how the system really works. How men like Caleb win. How I can beat them. Years pass and I climb. From receptionist to assistant. From assistant to department manager. From department manager to executive. I learn to play their game. I sharpen my edges, polish myself into someone they don't question. I build connections, make allies, gather favors until my name means something in this world. And then one day I make the move that changes everything. I take a risk, pulling together every ounce of knowledge, every lesson, every strategy I've learned. I start my own company. People doubt me. They say it's impossible, that I'll never survive in a world dominated by men with last names that have built empires. I smile at them. Because they don't know what I've survived. They don't know what I've lost. I grind. I sacrifice sleep, relationships, everything that doesn't push me closer to my goal. And then I rise. My company takes off. It grows faster than anyone expects. I take the market by storm, swallowing up competition, buying out businesses that once dismissed me. I become a name that matters. And then one morning as I sip coffee in my sleek, glass-walled office overlooking the city, My assistant walks in with a list of job applications for an executive position. And at the very top of that list, Caleb Mercer. I stare at the name for a long time. The same man who crushed me, who stole my son and destroyed my life, is now standing at my doorstep, unknowingly asking me for a job. I lean back in my chair, a slow, cold smile spreading across my lips. Caleb, you have no idea. I stare at his name until the letters blur together. Caleb Mercer. The man who took everything from me. The man who left me on my knees in that courtroom, gasping for air as they tore my son from my arms. The man who bought my child with money and walked away without looking back. And now he's here, begging for a job. I exhale slowly, setting the paper down. My assistant is still standing in front of my desk, watching me carefully. Should I schedule an interview? She asks. A bitter laugh rises in my throat. He has no idea, does he? He doesn't know whose company this is. He doesn't know the woman he crushed under his boot has built an empire. I pick up my pen, tapping it lightly against the desk. Schedule it, I say smoothly. She nods and leaves the office, closing the door behind her. I lean back in my chair, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office. The city stretches before me, a glittering sea of power and opportunity. Took me years to get here. Years of sleepless nights, of clawing my way up from nothing. And now fate has handed me the perfect revenge. I clasp my hands together, feeling the slow burn of satisfaction settle in my chest. Caleb Mercer is about to learn exactly what it means to lose. The day of the interview arrives and I wait. I sit at my desk, perfectly poised, dressed in a crisp dark suit that exudes power. My makeup is flawless, my lips painted a deep shade of red. A warning, a statement, a reminder that I am no longer the woman he destroyed. The knock comes, sharp and professional. Come in. The door swings open and for the first time in years I see him. Caleb Mercer. For a moment I almost don't recognize him. The man who once stood untouchable with his expensive suits and arrogant smirk, looks smaller. His tailored suits have been replaced with something cheaper, his sharp confidence dulled by something weary. His dark brown hair is still neatly styled, but there are faint lines near his stormy blue eyes, shadows that weren't there before. He steps inside, his gaze scanning the room, unaware. He doesn't know. Not yet. Mr. Mercer, I say, my voice smooth and unreadable. Take a seat. He does, straightening his posture. I watch as he exhales slightly, trying to appear confident. He's nervous. Good. I lean forward, folding my hands neatly on the desk. Tell me, why do you want to work for my company? He clears his throat, forcing a smile. I've admired this company for years. It's grown incredibly fast and I believe my experience would make me a valuable asset to your team. I tilt my head, pretending to be interested. And why did you leave your last position? A flicker of something crosses his face. Regret? He hesitates, then forces another smile. It was time for a change. Liar. I already know the truth. His father's company, the one that backed his entire life, collapsed. His money dried up, his power vanished. He lost everything just like I did. Only he didn't have to suffer for it. He still had my son. I tap my pen against the desk, letting the silence stretch. His fingers twitch against his resume. He's waiting for me to say something to break the tension. I don't. Instead, I let the moment hang between us, let him squirm under the weight of my gaze. And then finally I smile. Not the kind of smile I used to give him. Not soft, not full of love. This one is slow, calculated. Caleb, I say lightly. His eyebrows pull together slightly. Excuse me. I tilt my head, watching the recognition finally dawn in his eyes. The shift is instant. His spine stiffens, his mouth parts slightly, his stormy blue eyes widening in something like disbelief or horror. I lean back in my chair, savoring the moment. Funny, I muse. How life works, isn't it? His throat bobs. Lena. The way he says my name, ***, like he never expected to see me again, like he can't believe what's happening, ***, sends a dark thrill through me. I clasp my hands together. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting your application. He looks like he's been hit by a freight train. This is your company? I smile. It is. His gaze flickers to the name on my desk. Lena Hartzu. I watch as realization crashes into him, as he finally understands that the woman he destroyed is now the woman who holds his future in her hands. And just like that, the power shifts. For the first time in years, Caleb Mercer is the one at a disadvantage. And I intend to make him feel every second of it. I rise from my chair, walking around the desk slowly, deliberately. He watches me with cautious eyes, his fingers gripping the edge of his resume like it's the only thing grounding him. "Tell me, Caleb," I say, stopping right beside him. "How does it feel?" He exhales shakily. "How does what feel?" I lean down slightly, just enough to let my voice drop into something cold. "To be powerless?" He flinches. "Good." I straighten, smoothing my hands down my skirt. "You said you wanted to work for my company." I tilt my head, pretending to think. "Maybe I should give you that chance." His eyes snap up to mine, searching for something. "Mercy, maybe." "He won't find it. Not after what he did." I smile again, walking back toward my desk. "I'll be in touch." Caleb doesn't move right away. He just sits there, staring at me as if he's still processing the absolute disaster of his situation. And then slowly he stands. His movements are careful, controlled, but I see the tension in his shoulders. He nods stiffly. "Thank you for your time." I watch him turn toward the door, watch the way his hands clench into fists at his sides. I could let him walk away, let him pretend for a little longer that he has a choice. But where's the fun in that? "Caleb." He stops. Doesn't turn, but I see his shoulders rise and fall with a slow, controlled breath. I lean against my desk, my voice cool. "Welcome to the company." And just like that, the game begins. Caleb shows up on his first day wearing the same false confidence he's always had. He walks through the office like he belongs here, his stormy blue eyes scanning the room as if it's already his to conquer. As if he doesn't remember whose kingdom he just stepped into. I watch from my glass-walled office, sipping my coffee as he approaches the receptionist's desk, handing over his paperwork. He still carries himself like a man who believes he's in control. He isn't. Not anymore. I give it an hour before I call him in. Let him settle. Let him feel safe. Then I strike. When he enters my office, I don't invite him to sit. I don't greet him with warmth or fake pleasantries. I let the silence stretch, watching him shift slightly under my gaze. Good. Let him feel what it's like to be the one waiting. "Tell me, Caleb," I finally say, tilting my head. "How does it feel to be on the other side of the desk?" His jaw tightens. "I'm here to work, Lena. Not play games." I smile, slow and sharp. "That's where we disagree." His eyes darken. He knows exactly what I mean. "You'll be starting in the client relations department," I continue smoothly. A fitting place for someone who once prided himself on his ability to handle people. A muscle ticks in his jaw. I assumed I'd be placed in an executive role. I lift a brow. "Why would you assume that?" He straightens. "Because I have experience. Because I ran multimillion-dollar projects before." "That was before," I cut in. "Before your father's company collapsed. Before you burned every bridge. Before you came here begging for a job." His breath catches for just a second. Just long enough for me to see the hit land. I lean forward slightly, my hazel-green eyes locking onto his. "Here's how this works, Caleb. You will start at the bottom. You will earn your place just like everyone else. No favors. No shortcuts. Just hard, relentless work." He stares at me, his expression unreadable. For a moment I wonder if he's about to quit. If his pride is still too inflated. If he's still the same entitled man who once bought my son like he was a commodity. But then he surprises me. He exhales slowly, his hands flexing at his sides before he nods. "Understood." I raise a brow. No argument. He meets my gaze, something unreadable flickering in those stormy blue eyes. "I said I'm here to work, Lena. If this is what it takes, I'll do it." For the first time since I saw his name on that resume, I hesitate. I expected resistance. Expected arrogance. Expected him to fight me. I didn't expect acceptance. I don't like it. Because I want him to suffer. I want him to squirm under the weight of what he did, to feel the same helplessness I did when I watched him take Noah away. I push down the unease curling in my stomach and nod toward the door. "Your supervisor is waiting for you downstairs. Don't keep him waiting." Caleb nods once, then turns and walks out of my office. I watch him go, my grip tightening around the armrest of my chair. This is only the beginning. He's about to learn that the power he once held over me is gone. And I will not stop until he understands exactly what it means to lose. I don't make it easy for him. From the moment Caleb steps into my company, I make sure he feels the weight of every decision he's ever made. Every privilege he once had is stripped away. No private office, no cushy executive chair, no personal assistant hanging onto his every word. He's just another employee now. Underpaid, overworked, and completely at my mercy. I assign him the worst projects. The ones no one wants, the ones that drag on for months with impossible demands and little reward. Menial work, the kind that would have made the old Caleb sneer. He does them anyway. Day after day, I watch from my office as he stays late, fixing spreadsheets and preparing reports for junior executives who barely glance at him. No one respects him here. They don't know who he used to be. They only know who he is now. A man trying to keep his head above water in a world that no longer belongs to him. It should feel good. Watching him struggle should bring me satisfaction. I built this empire from nothing while he let his slip through his fingers. This is justice. This is what he deserves. And yet, one night, long after the office has emptied, I walk past his desk on my way out. He doesn't see me. He's hunched over his laptop, typing furiously, his dark brown hair slightly disheveled from running his fingers through it too many times. There are dark circles under his eyes. His once pristine suits have been replaced with cheaper, off-the-rack versions. This is a man who has lost everything. And still he stays. I tighten my grip on my bag and force myself to keep walking. I don't care. At least that's what I tell myself. The next morning I send an email. Subject: Urgent task for client relations. Body: Caleb. A new client is arriving this afternoon. I need you to handle it personally. You'll be managing their requests and ensuring their experience is seamless. Failure is not an option. I don't sign my name. He knows exactly who it's from. I wait. 2 minutes later my phone vibrates with a response. Understood. I smirk. Let the humiliation begin. The new client is an old business associate. An arrogant billionaire who treats employees like trash and expects nothing less than perfection. I watch from my office window as Caleb greets him downstairs. I watch as he forces himself to smile as he lowers himself to the kind of role he once mocked. For hours I let him suffer. Fetching coffee. Answering ridiculous demands. Sitting silently as the client belittles him in front of others. This is what it feels like, Caleb. To be powerless. To be nothing. When the meeting finally ends, Caleb steps into the elevator, his posture stiff, his expression unreadable. He doesn't look at me. Good. Because if he did, he would see that despite everything, despite the war I've started, there's a part of me that doesn't feel like I'm winning at all. Caleb doesn't break the way I expect him to. He doesn't storm into my office demanding respect. He doesn't throw his resignation on my desk in a fit of bruised ego. He doesn't even try to fight back. Instead he endures. Every humiliating task, every impossible deadline, every cold glance I send his way, he takes it all without a word. First I think it's pride. That stubborn, arrogant side of him refusing to let me see him struggle. But the more I watch, the more I realize it's something else. He isn't just here because he needs the job. He's here because of something more. Something I can't quite see yet. One night, long after most of the office has gone home, I find him at his desk. A single lamp illuminates the papers in front of him, casting shadows under his stormy blue eyes. His tie is loose, his sleeves rolled up, his once perfect posture slightly hunched. For the first time since he walked back into my life, he looks tired. Not the kind of exhaustion that comes from long hours at work. The kind that settles deep into your bones, the kind that lingers. The kind I know too well. I don't know why I stop. I could have just walked past him like I always do, pretended I didn't see him. But something in me still wants to know. Still wants to understand. You're still here, I say, my voice even. He startles slightly as if he hadn't noticed me standing there. When he looks up, something flickers in his expression. Surprise maybe. Wariness. Lot of work, he murmurs, rubbing his temple. Figured I'd get ahead. I study him, arms crossed. Didn't think you'd last this long. He exhales a quiet laugh, though there's no humor in it. Didn't think I would either. Silence stretches between us. The first silence that doesn't feel like a battlefield. I don't know why I say it, but the words slip out before I can stop them. Why are you really here, Caleb? He doesn't answer right away. He looks down at the papers in front of him, tapping his pen against the desk in thought. And then finally he speaks. Because I have to be. His voice is quiet, rough around the edges. I narrow my eyes. That's not an answer. He exhales, leaning back in his chair. His gaze flickers to the glass windows, the city lights glowing beyond them. You think this is about money? His lips press into a thin line. It's not. I don't care about the title. Or the job. Or the humiliation you're putting me through. Something in his voice changes, something that makes my chest tighten. I'm here because I lost something, he says, his blue eyes finally meeting mine. And I don't know how to live with that. I know exactly what he's talking about. Noah. His son. Our son. For a moment the office fades away. The walls, the desks, the cold professionalism between us. None of it matters. Because now I'm no longer looking at the man I hate. I'm looking at the man who used to hold our baby in his arms, rocking him to sleep. The man who once whispered to Noah about the stars, who kissed his forehead and promised he'd always protect him. And for the first time I see guilt in his eyes. Real raw aching guilt. I swallow hard, pushing down the sudden wave of emotion threatening to break through my walls. You don't get to act like the victim, I say, my voice cold again. You chose this. You took him from me. Caleb's jaw tightens, and for the first time since he walked back into my life he looks like he wants to fight. You think I don't regret it? He asks, voice low, strained. You think I don't hate myself for what I did? I freeze. Because the Caleb I knew never admitted fault. Never apologized. Never regretted anything. But now as I look at him, the tired, hollow version of the man who once destroyed me, I feel something shift. I don't know if it's enough to change anything. But I do know this. For the first time Caleb Mercer looks like a man who has lost too. I dream of Noah that night. It happens sometimes. Just when I think I've hardened myself enough, just when I believe I've buried the pain deep enough, he finds me. In the dream he's running toward me, his little legs moving as fast as they can, his chubby arms reaching out. Mommy. His voice is bright, filled with excitement, the way it used to be before he was taken from me. I kneel, opening my arms to catch him. But just as his fingers brush mine, he vanishes. I wake up gasping. The pain is instant, the weight of reality crashing down on my chest. My hands tremble as I sit up in bed, pressing my palms against my face, trying to breathe. Noah isn't here. He hasn't been for years. But he still owns every piece of my heart. That morning I check my emails like I do every day, scrolling through the endless lists of reports and corporate updates. But one message stops me cold. From Caleb Mercer. Subject, Noah. I stare at it for a long time, my heart pounding so hard I can hear it. My finger hovers over the delete button. I don't want to open it. I shouldn't open it. But I do. Lena. He asks about you. Thought you should know. That's it. No excuses. No empty apologies. Just 7 words that hit me harder than I want to admit. I grip the edge of my desk, inhaling sharply. Noah asks about me. It's what I always feared. That he would wake up one day and wonder where I went. That Caleb or his family would spin lies, tell him I left by choice. That my own son, my own flesh and blood, would start to forget me. I type a response, my fingers trembling. Where's he? I want to see him. I hesitate, staring at the words. For a moment I almost delete them. Almost take the safer route, the one where I don't risk reopening old wounds. But Noah is not an old wound. He's my son. And I will never stop fighting for him. I hit send. Caleb's response comes minutes later. Not yet. My blood boils. I grab my phone and storm out of my office, my heels clicking against the marble floors as I make my way to where I know Caleb is. I find him in the records department, buried in paperwork, sleeves rolled up, his dark brown hair slightly disheveled from the long hours. He looks up the second I walk in. He must see the fury in my eyes because he doesn't say a word. I march straight up to him, my voice low and seething. Not yet. Caleb exhales, rubbing his jaw. Lena. No, I cut him off, slamming my hands onto the desk. You don't get to do this. You don't get to dangle him in front of me like some privilege I have to earn. He flinches. For a second I see guilt flash across his face. It's not like that, he says quietly. Then what is it like? My voice is shaking now, my chest rising and falling with barely restrained rage. Tell me, Caleb. Tell me what it's like to have my son asking about me while I sit here, still fighting to be in his life. His stormy blue eyes lock onto mine. I just need to make sure it's right. I let out a hollow laugh, stepping back. Right for who? For you. For him, he says, and there's something in his voice, something almost broken. I don't want to confuse him. I don't want to hurt him. I shake my head. You already did. The words hit him like a bullet. His throat bobs, his fists clenching. You have no idea how much I regret it, he admits, his voice raw. I cross my arms, forcing myself to stay strong. I don't care about your regret, Caleb. I care about my son. And if you think for a second that I'm going to sit back and wait for your permission to see him, you're wrong. His jaw tightens. I never wanted to keep him from you. Then why did you? Silence. For the first time since he came back into my life, he has no answer. I inhale sharply, trying to push down the lump rising in my throat. You don't get to decide when I'm ready to see my own child, I whisper. I'll see him, with or without your help. And with that, I turn and walk away. Because this isn't over. I don't wait. I don't beg. I don't let Caleb think even for a second that he has control over this. That night I find out where Noah is. It doesn't take much. The right connections, the right favors. I've spent years learning how to navigate a world built to keep people like me in the dark. Now I know how to turn the lights on. He's at a private school just outside the city. A prestigious institution for the elite. The kind Caleb's family has always thrown their money at. I park my car across the street the next afternoon, my heart pounding as I watch the children spill onto the front steps. Then I see him. My son. Noah's taller now. His dark brown curls are a little longer than I remember, his blue eyes just as bright. He's laughing at something one of his classmates says, his backpack slung over his small shoulders. He looks happy. The relief is instant, but so is the pain. Because I should have been here for all of it. Every first day of school. Every scraped knee. Every bedtime story. I grip the steering wheel, my breath shaking. I want to run to him, to call his name, to wrap him in my arms and never let go. But I don't. Not yet. Because I'm not just here for Noah. I'm here for the truth. And I find it sooner than I expect. Caleb arrives minutes later. But he's not alone. A woman steps out of the passenger seat of his car, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her designer coat hugging her frame. She walks beside him like she belongs there, her hand resting lightly on his arm as they approach Noah. Noah sees them and grins. Dad. Evelyn. Evelyn. The name hits me like a blade to the chest. I know who she is. I knew the Mercers had influence, but Caleb wasn't the only one pulling the strings. His family had help. And now as I watch Evelyn, one of their family's top lawyers, the woman who fought against me in court, the woman who stood by Caleb's side while they stole my child from me, I realize the depth of the betrayal. She wasn't just their lawyer. She was his. I watch as she kneels down, fixing Noah's backpack strap, smiling like she has any right to touch my son. Like she has any right to be here instead of me. And then Caleb does something that shatters me completely. He presses a kiss to her temple. The world tilts, my stomach lurching. It was never just about Noah. It was about power. About control. About making sure I never had a place in their world again. Caleb didn't just take my child. He replaced me. Something inside me snaps. I reach for my phone, my fingers steady despite the storm raging inside me. I make a call. A powerful voice answers on the other end. A connection. A weapon. A way to destroy Caleb the same way he destroyed me. Do it, I say. Take everything from him. Because this was the final betrayal. And now Caleb Mercer is going to pay. Caleb doesn't know it yet, but his world is already collapsing. By the time he walks into the office the next morning, everything is already in motion. The calls have been made. The deals have been struck. The very foundation he's standing on is about to crumble beneath him. And the best part? I won't even have to lay a finger on him myself. He barely has time to settle at his desk before his phone starts ringing. I watch from my office, arms crossed as confusion flickers across his face. The first call he ignores. The second he answers. And then the storm begins. His face tightens. His posture stiffens. I can almost hear the sharp tone of the person on the other end, the way his grip on the phone tightens with every passing second. Then he stands abruptly, storming toward the conference room. I don't stop him. Let him run. Let him think he can fix it. 10 minutes later I follow. The moment I step inside, I see the moment he realizes. Caleb is standing in front of the massive conference table, his tie loose, his jaw clenched. His laptop is open, emails flooding his screen. Across from him, several executives sit stiffly, watching him like a ticking bomb. When his eyes land on me, they darken with something between fury and dread. You, he breathes, the word laced with realization. I lean against the doorframe, tilting my head. Problem, Mercer? His fingers dig into the table. You did this. I smile. You'll have to be more specific. One of the executives, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s, clears his throat. Mr. Mercer, effective immediately, the partnership between Mercer Holdings and Hart Enterprises has been dissolved. Caleb's face drains of color. That's impossible, he says, shaking his head. This deal has been locked in for months. It was conditional, I interrupt smoothly, stepping forward. And as of this morning, you no longer meet the conditions. He turns to me slowly, his stormy blue eyes dark with rage. What the hell did you do? I savor the moment. The delicious, slow realization that he's no longer the one in control. That I hold the cards now. Let's see, I muse, tapping my chin. Where should I start? The investors who pulled out after I had a little chat with them? The legal team who reconsidered their involvement with your company? Or the quiet little audit that just landed on your father's desk? His breath comes out sharp. He knows. The audit. The one thing his family can't afford to have exposed. You think you can destroy me? His voice is low, shaking with barely contained fury. I step closer, lowering my voice just enough to slice through him. I don't think, Caleb, I whisper. I know. Silence swallows the room. The executives glance between us, waiting for his reaction. But Caleb doesn't move. He just stares at me, his hands clenching into fists, his jaw locked so tight I wonder if he might break. Then finally he exhales, his expression unreadable. You really hate me that much? Something sharp pierces my chest, but I shove it down. I can't afford to feel anything for him anymore. You made me hate you, I say quietly. His eyes flicker with something, regret maybe, or something deeper. But I don't care. I turn to the executives, my voice cool, controlled. I expect his resignation by the end of the day. Caleb flinches just barely. Then before he can say another word, I walk away. Because this was never about hate. This was about justice. Caleb doesn't leave right away. I expected him to march into my office, to throw some final desperate threat in my face before storming out for good. But he doesn't. Instead he stays. 4 hours. I see him from my office window, sitting at his desk, unmoving. The chaos around him is deafening. Executives whispering, employees sneaking nervous glances. The weight of his downfall settling over the entire floor like a storm cloud. But Caleb, he just sits there. So silent. Like a man who has finally realized he's lost. I should feel victorious. This is what I wanted, isn't it? To take everything from him the way he took everything from me. But as I watch him from behind my glass walls, something uneasy curls inside me. Because this isn't the man who ruined my life. That man was arrogant, untouchable, ruthless. The one sitting outside my office now? He looks like a ghost. By the end of the day he finally moves. He stands slowly, gathering his things, his shoulders heavier than I've ever seen them. Then he walks toward my office. I brace myself, ready for the final battle, ready for whatever words he's about to throw at me. But when he steps inside and closes the door behind him, there's no anger. No fire. Just quiet. He places his resignation letter on my desk. It takes everything in me to keep my expression unreadable, to pretend this moment doesn't rattle something deep inside me. I deserved this, he says finally. His voice is low, steady. Honest. I say nothing. He exhales sharply, rubbing the back of his neck. I knew it was coming. Maybe not like this, but I knew. I don't respond. Because if I do, I might say something I'll regret. So I let the silence stretch. Caleb watches me for a long time, his stormy blue eyes unreadable. Then finally he nods like he's accepting something. Something final. Take care of him, he murmurs. My breath catches. I don't have to ask who he means. Noah. I press my nails into my palm. I always have. A ghost of a smile flickers across his face. Sad, small, regretful. Then without another word he turns and walks away. The first time I see Noah again I forget how to breathe. He's waiting for me at the park, sitting on one of the swings, kicking his legs lightly. His dark brown curls bounce with the movement, and when he looks up his blue eyes, Caleb's eyes, lock onto mine. For a second he just stares. Like he's trying to remember. Like he's trying to decide if I'm real. I take a shaky step forward. Then another. And then, "Mommy." The word breaks me. A sob bursts from my chest as I drop to my knees, opening my arms. He doesn't hesitate. He runs to me, small arms wrapping around my neck, holding on like he's afraid I'll disappear again. I press my face into his curls, inhaling the scent of shampoo and sunshine, memorizing every piece of him all over again. "I missed you," he whispers. Tears stream down my face as I hold him tighter. "I missed you more, baby. So much more." I don't know how long we stay like that. A minute. An eternity. Eventually, I pull back just enough to cup his face, studying him, memorizing every change. His slightly longer eyelashes, the way his front tooth is missing, the tiny scar on his chin that wasn't there before. I miss so much. But I'm here now. "You're coming home with me," I whisper, brushing his hair back. "For good." His little hands tighten around mine. "Promise." I smile through the tears, pressing my forehead against his. "I swear." Behind me, footsteps crunch against the gravel. I know who it is before I even turn. Caleb stands a few feet away, hands in his pockets, watching. His face is unreadable, but there's something in his eyes. Something raw, something aching. He doesn't speak. Neither do I. Because there's nothing left to say. We both know this is the end. I stand, keeping my hand firmly in Noah's. "Goodbye, Caleb." His lips press together, his throat working like there's something he wants to say but knows he never will. Dad, he just nods. And then I walk away. For the first time in years I walk away with my son by my side. And this time I'm the one who wins.